Hey, what's up guys, Spartan here, and today I'll be talking about my first impressions of Monster Hunter Rise. Monster Hunter Rise is one of those games that, to me, may be one of the best in the series. Just simply because World had the appeal of ease of use and a ton of replayability. I believe the one part though that I did not like about World was, while yes, the game was very fun to play at some points, but while yes, like the game was very fun to play, one of the main issues with the game that I felt that needed to be corrected or done or whatever, was the fact that the mechanics were fun, but they got boring very quickly. And that was one of my issues with World. I played World. I'm like Hunter Master Rank, or I think it's Master Rank now. Master Rank is basically like the G rank of the game. If anybody knows what G rank is. Basically, there were 3 tiers to different missions or hunts that you can do. There was low rank, which was like the lowest. It was very beginner. And basically, it was just to get like the basic type of armor, kind of play with builds a little bit. There were really no negatives to the armor. Then you have high tier. High tier was a little bit harder, kind of like the intermediate type of hunts. Monsters did more damage. They had more health to them, and this is when you can actually start playing more in-depth build crafting with perks, abilities. If you played Freedom Unite, there were some negatives to the to your armor. So what you had to do is that you kind of had to mix match armor a little bit. You kind of looked ugly, but there were some times where you kind of look cool. They kind of took that out of Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World is way more user friendly whenever it comes down to build crafting, and I think that this is what's going to be happening in Monster Hunter Rise as well. So it's a good change, but there might be some veteran hunters that kind of want like the Freedom Unite type of play style, which is basically whenever you wear like a full set of Rathalos gear, you would have like a crap ton of attack power and an attack increase, and I think some crit increase as well. The problem though with it was that it had very low defense or very low health. It would actually start knocking off health and defense. So you kind of had to like mix match different pieces of gear to kind of like mitigate those type of effects. So what ended up happening is that your character looked kind of ugly. like I'm not gonna lie, your character looked straight ugly. However, the game was more fun because it was very hard. Like Freedom Unite, I think is possibly like one of the hardest Monster Hunter games that's out there right now. And this is just my opinion because I played Monster Hunter and then Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, which Monster Hunter Freedom Unite was basically Monster Hunter, but it was multiplayer. Like it expounded on like the multiplayer, and it made the game way more fun because like you could actually play with your friends. Then there was Monster Hunter 3 or Try, I think, and that was for the Wii. That was awful. It was terrible because of the swim mechanics. Like swimming and Monster Hunter does not go together. Then there was Monster Hunter 4, I think, which was Generations, I think. I could be wrong about that. There are a shit ton of Monster Hunter games. But basically, they kind of like moved away from the swimming, and then they went back to like the grassroots of like, no swimming. Let's just put in new weapons with new mechanics and such, and then we'll kind of just like let them play. And that's where you got like the Insect Glaive, the Charger Blade, and then the Switch Axe. What Monster Hunter Rise does, and this is just my opinion on the game, is that it takes even the core weapons that we've always loved and cherished. So this would be like the Great Sword, this would be the bow, this would be the dual blades, this would be the sword and shield, the gun lance, the lance. It takes those weapons and then pushes them up another notch. And whenever I mean by that, I mean you have wire bugs. Now, if you don't know what wire bugs are, but it's a commodity that you can use to become more mobile. You can do way more damage, and you can do a lot of aerial stuff. And we'll kind of get into that later on. But as far as first impressions go, this may be the best Monster Hunter game that's ever been released. And here's why I say this. Going back to Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World, it had good gear. The graphics were fantastic. Everything about that game was top notch. It was it was at the time the best Monster Hunter game that ever came out. Just simply because of all the build stuff you can do, the amount of monsters, just all the tools you can do. The weapons look badass. The armor sets look badass. The build crafting was in depth. It was so freaking in depth. There were Elder Dragons, new monsters, old monsters, monsters that we've always loved and grown accustomed to back in like the old Monster Hunter Freedom Unite days and Monster Hunter games. However, there was one thing in my opinion that kind of made the game kind of stale for me, and that was just the overall mechanics. The overall mechanics have been always the same since in the old Monster Hunter games. Now, they did bring something new to the game, right? They brought in the slingshot on your arm. That was a good change. It basically kind of livened it up a little bit, because you can actually start shooting things at the monster and stuff that can make them flinch, that can put them in paralysis, different types of things, right? There was also another thing as well, which was the clutch claw. The clutch claw was basically you shoot a claw at a monster, it hits them, you get on top of them, and then you can basically weaken a part of them, and then you can do way more damage to that weakened part. It's very, very good. There was also mounting as well, but mounting was in other games. I think it was in Generations. I think it was in 4, and that was because of the Insect Glaive. The Insect Glaive had to have mounting to it in order to become a viable weapon. But and we'll get to the Insect Glaive too, because I'm kind of sad about the Insect Glaive in Monster Hunter Rise. But we'll get to that here in a minute. One of the coolest things about Monster Hunter Rise is the fact that you're extremely mobile. Even with the Great Sword, you are extremely mobile. And it even incentivizes you to become mobile in Monster Hunter Rise. And how you become mobile is with the wire bugs, like I said before. So, for example, if you use a Great Sword users, I think you'll like this. I've always used the Great Sword. I've used the Great Sword, I've used the Katana, and I've used the Insect Glaive. Those are the weapons that I have used religiously in every single Monster Hunter game, or almost every single Monster Hunter game that's came out already, right? Issues with Great Sword is that you're slow, but you hit really hard. So you have to kind of play this type of hit and run type of gameplay. You're going to make a build where critical draw is going to be a thing, where you run up to a monster, you draw, and you have a 100% chance increase. Basically, it's going to crit every single time you basically throw out your sword, right? So, but that's how you play Great Sword. How you play Great Sword, it's a very bait and punish, and it's also a very hit and run type of play style, right? In Rise, what makes the Great Sword really good is the fact that not only can you play this hit and run play style, but you can just go out of whenever you go in and then hit a monster, you can almost hit them twice. Wire bug out, and then gain a damage bonus on top of it. So, and you'll see that in the gameplay that I'll play behind me, but you'll start to get a damage increase in which you do even more damage, which is incredibly good. It is stupid good how fantastic the Great Sword is. It is very, very good. Out of the weapons that I've played in the demo, because the demo's out already, so if you don't believe me how good this game is, you need to play the demo. I played with Great Sword, I played with Katana, I played with Short Sword, because I thought the Sword would also be very good. I played with Dual Blades or Twin Blades. I played with the Bow, and I played with the Insect Glaive. Those are the weapons that I've played with so far. Out of all those weapons that I mentioned, the Insect Glaive was kind of a disappointment, and I'll explain here in a minute. But as far as all the other weapons go, they're really, 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 really fun to play with. Like I said, Great Sword is very, very good for that hit and run type of play style. If you like to do a lot of damage and then wire bug out and then get a bonus damage, and the recharge rate on the wire bugs is extremely fast. It's kind of overpowered, to be honest with you guys. Katana, I thought Katana was good. It's not really my playstyle in this game necessarily. you basically do all the same stuff that you do in World. So like whenever you sheathe the blade and then you go for the 1, 2, 3 slash and it recharges your spirit gauge, that's still, like, they basically just ported that from Monster Hunter World over to Monster Hunter Rise. So that's still in the game. Thank God they kept that. It was a very, very good change. Same thing with like the counter pose and stuff like that, where like if you time it just right and a monster attacks you, you have full invincibility and you do a shit ton of damage on top of it. It is an extremely good thing. Sword and Shield, I think, is probably going to be like one of the best weapons in the game, or possibly the best weapon in the game, just simply because it complements the wire bug combos. It does a lot of damage. The shield bash, for some odd reason, it does a crazy amount of damage and knocks people into a state of knockback, and or like basically like it puts monsters in a dizzy state, which is very, very good. It also sets up for wyvern riding or monster riding. Basically, if you use an amount of kind of wire bug moves, and this includes jumping with the moves, like jumping attacks with wire bugs, or even like the signature wire bug move that comes with the weapon. There's basically a type of, it's not really a gauge necessarily, but over time as you use those weapons, the monster will be knocked down into a state where you can ride them. And whenever you ride them, you are the monster. You can control them. It's like riding a horse. You can basically direct them to where you want to go. You can attack other monsters, or if you're fighting just one monster and that's the only, and that's really like the only monster that you have to fight, what you can do is that you can slam them up against the wall a total of 3 times, do a lot of damage, get them to a knockdown state, and then you can even do even more damage to them. So that's why wyvern riding, I think, is going to be extremely fun, and there's probably going to be some builds on it. There's also probably going to be some builds on wire bugs. There has to be. Like, there has to be some sort of bug wire type of gear, or maybe or maybe even a charm where you possibly gain like another wire bug slot. Because in this game, or like in this demo, you get 2. I can totally see you getting more. If you find a wire bug out in the wild, you can carry 1 more, but if you find any more wire bugs in the wire, you cannot take them. You can only take 1 wire bug. So that's why you want to be smart with how you use wire bugs out in the wild. And there seems to be a sort of time limit on, like, let's say if there's a wire bug in Sector 1, right? And you're fighting a monster, and then you grab the wire bug, right? So you have 3 wire bugs now, right? Let's say if you use that wire bug and then it's gone, right? It doesn't just, like, whenever you grab that wire bug in that one sector, there's a certain amount of time that has to pass in order for it to pop up again. So it's not gone forever. They may change that. Again, this is just a demo, but how I feel about wire bugs and wyvern riding, this is why I think Monster Hunter Rise will probably be one of the best games, or the best game in the series, and that's simply because of the mechanics of the game. The mechanics of the game are so fun. They are so fun to play. The online, for the most part, for the Switch, was good. It wasn't really jerky or anything like that. It wasn't too unstable. However, we're playing a demo right now, and it's not really a lot on the actual Switch hardware right now. We'll kind of have to see whenever the game comes out, how good this game actually is. We'll kind of have to wait and see. I'm hoping that the online is not going to be bad. If the online is terrible for Monster Hunter Rise, World may still be the best Monster Hunter game that we've ever had, for the most part, because of like how crazy good that game is. However, based upon mechanics, though, I think Rise takes Monster Hunter World single-handedly. Like, that's how fun the game is, in my opinion. But anyways, let me know down in the comments section what y'all think about this game. Little tidbits and tips and stuff like that will be greatly appreciated. I kind of want to foster a community of people who just like Switch games. also into games and stuff like that. I'm more of a Smash Bros. Competitive guy, like for the most part. So if you see a lot of Smash Bros. Content, that's basically like for the most part like what I play. But I'm trying to branch out and like do other different games and stuff. Because right now Smash is it's kind of a bad state. I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, see you guys later.